I never thought the people I sacrificed everything for would become the ones I needed protection from. That night, I didn't walk into my daughter's house as a guest. I walked in as a mother who still believed she mattered. But within minutes, the room changed, voices hardened, silence grew heavy. My son-in-law stepped forward. I looked at my daughter waiting for her to stop him. She didn't. And in that moment, something inside me broke, because I realized this story wasn't about an argument anymore. It was about the night I lost my family, and what happened after shocked everyone. I always believed that a mother's love could fix anything. That no matter how cruel the world got, if I was there, protecting her, guiding her, supporting her, my daughter would always have a safe place to return to. I was wrong. From the moment she was born, I dedicated my life to her. I skipped meals, wore old clothes so she could have new ones, worked extra hours to pay for her education, and spent sleepless nights watching over her when she was sick. Every decision I made revolved around her happiness, her comfort, her safety. People told me I loved her too much. I ignored them. They didn't understand the bond I felt. As she grew, she became bright, confident, and independent, everything I had hoped for. And yet, as she became her own person, I began to notice small changes. She started speaking less about her day. She hesitated before sharing anything personal. She began looking at me in a way I didn't recognize, polite, distant, almost calculating. Then he came into her life, my son-in-law, charming, polite, and ambitious. I wanted to trust him. I tried. I even smiled when I saw them together, pretending I didn't notice the way he interrupted her conversations or subtly dismissed her opinions. I told myself I was imagining things, that a mother always worries, that love can blind you. The wedding day was a blur of emotions, pride, joy, exhaustion. I watched her walk down the aisle and smiled through tears, thinking I had raised a strong, independent woman ready for the world. I believed that day we were gaining a son. I didn't know I was already losing a daughter. Life after the wedding was different. Subtle, almost invisible changes started to accumulate. Phone calls were shorter, visits rarer. When I did visit, I felt like a guest in a home I had once built. Conversations were controlled. Decisions were made without me. My daughter's words seemed filtered, measured, as if she were testing the air before speaking. I remember one evening clearly. I had been invited for dinner. I baked her favorite dessert, wore my best dress, and hoped that the warmth I always brought would fill the room. Dinner started normal, but the atmosphere changed quickly. He criticized the food. He spoke to her in a tone that made my stomach twist. I tried to lighten the mood with a joke, but the smile I forced felt fake even to me. When he spoke sharply to her about something trivial, I instinctively defended her. The room froze. I looked at my daughter, expecting her to step forward, to correct him, to protect me. She didn't, and in that moment, I understood. I was no longer welcome. I was no longer considered family. The night continued like a slow-burning nightmare. His words, sharp and dismissive, cut deeper than any physical harm could. My daughter stayed silent. My heart ached, but I refused to cry in front of them. I had already given everything: my love, my protection, my life. There was nothing left to give. As I left that night, carrying the weight of betrayal heavier than any bag, I realized something. Walking away wasn't just an option. It was survival. I didn't know it then, but that single decision, the one to step out of the life I had built, would be the start of a journey I never imagined. A journey of strength, of reclaiming my life, of discovering that sometimes the people who claim to love you the most are the ones who can hurt you the deepest. And as I closed the door behind me, I promised myself one thing: I would survive, I would rise, and when the time came, I would show them that no one can erase the love and life a mother has built, not even her own daughter. After that night, I told myself it was just a misunderstanding. That's what mothers do. We lie gently to our own hearts so they don't break all at once. I replayed the evening again and again in my mind. His tone, her silence, the way the room felt colder even though the heater was on. I searched for excuses. Maybe he was stressed. Maybe she was tired. Maybe I had spoken out of turn. Anything sounded better than the truth. Days passed, then weeks. My phone stayed quiet. I stopped calling first because every unanswered ring felt like rejection. When she finally called, her voice sounded rushed, distant, like she was speaking to someone she barely knew. "How are you?" she'd ask. "I'm fine." I'd lie, because how do you tell your child that your heart feels like it's shrinking? I noticed how carefully she chose her words now. Every sentence felt rehearsed. Every pause felt heavy. When I asked if she wanted to meet, there was always a reason she couldn't. Too busy, too tired, maybe next week. Next week never came. I began to feel like I was slowly being erased from her life piece by piece, memory by memory. Family photos disappeared from her social media. Holidays passed with short text messages instead of visits. I watched other families celebrate together while I sat alone, convincing myself that independence was strength. But loneliness doesn't feel strong. It feels quiet. It feels invisible. It feels like screaming into an empty room. One afternoon, I finally gathered the courage to visit her without calling ahead. I told myself a mother doesn't need permission. I brought groceries, thinking it would make me feel useful welcome. When she opened the door, her smile didn't reach her eyes. She stepped aside, letting me in, but I could tell immediately that I wasn't expected. The house felt different now, not warmer, not fuller, just controlled. He was there, sitting calmly, watching. The conversation felt tense from the start. Every word I said seemed to land wrong. Every question felt like an interrogation. When I spoke directly to my daughter, he answered for her. When I laughed, he didn't join in. When I fell silent, no one noticed. At one point, I asked her softly, "Are you okay?" Before she could answer, he cut in, "She's fine. You worry too much." That was when I realized something important. This wasn't about me anymore. This was about control. I saw it in the way she flinched slightly when he raised his voice, in the way she glanced at him before responding, in the way she slowly disappeared right in front of me. I wanted to say something. I wanted to protect her like I always had, but fear held my tongue. Fear that if I pushed too hard, I'd lose her completely. So I stayed quiet. And that silence became my biggest regret. The visits stopped after that. She stopped answering my calls. When she did respond, it was short and formal, like speaking to an acquaintance. I could feel a wall growing between us brick by brick. One night, I lay awake staring at the ceiling, realizing something painful. I had raised her to be strong, but I had never taught her how to stand up to the people she loved. Then came the message, a simple invitation to dinner. No warmth, no explanation, just an address and a time. Something in my chest tightened as I read it. Part of me wanted to decline. Another part, the part that had loved her unconditionally for decades, refused to give up. I told myself this was my chance to fix things, to reconnect, to remind her who I was. That night, I dressed carefully. I practiced my smile again. I promised myself I would stay calm, that I wouldn't argue, that I wouldn't interfere. I walked into that house hoping for peace. Instead, I walked into the moment that would shatter everything. Because some invitations are not meant for reconciliation. They are meant for confrontation. And as I sat down at that table, surrounded by people who once called me family, I had no idea that this would be the night my role in their lives would be decided for good. That night, the air felt heavy before a single word was spoken. I remember standing outside their door, my hand frozen midair, unsure whether to knock or turn around and leave. Something inside me was screaming that this invitation wasn't about peace. It wasn't about reconciliation. It felt like walking toward a storm you can already hear but can't yet see. I knocked anyway. When the door opened, my daughter smiled, but it wasn't the smile I knew. It was tight, rehearsed, the kind people wear when they're bracing for something unpleasant. She stepped aside to let me in, and I immediately felt it, the tension wrapped around the room like invisible wire. He was already there, sitting comfortably, confident, as if this were his stage. I greeted him politely. He nodded, not bothering to stand. That small gesture told me more than words ever could. Dinner was served, but no one seemed hungry. Plates sat untouched while conversation limped forward in short, sharp sentences. Every word felt like it was being measured, judged, and weighed for usefulness. I tried to talk about normal things, the weather, work, old memories, anything to soften the space between us. Nothing worked. Then he cleared his throat. That sound small, deliberate changed everything. "There are some things we need to talk about," he said. I looked at my daughter. She stared down at her plate. My heart started racing. He began listing grievances, small things at first, comments I'd made months ago, advice he said I'd given without being asked, times I'd interfered. Each accusation landed heavier than the last. I tried to explain, to apologize where I could, to remind him that everything I'd ever done came from love. He laughed. not loudly, not cruelly, dismissively. "That's the problem," he said. "You think love gives you permission." I felt my chest tighten. I turned to my daughter. "Is this how you feel?" She hesitated. That hesitation hurt more than any insult he had thrown at me. "I think," she said slowly, "that maybe things would be easier if you gave us more space." Space. Such a gentle word for something so final. I nodded, swallowing the ache rising in my throat. "If that's what you need, I understand." But he wasn't finished. "You don't just need space," he said. "You need boundaries." The word boundaries felt like a wall slamming down in front of me. He leaned forward, his voice lowered, sharper now. "You make her uncomfortable. You undermine me. And frankly, you're a problem." The room went silent. I waited. I waited for my daughter to object, to soften his words, to defend me, even a little. She didn't. Something inside me cracked. "I am her mother," I said quietly. "I have never meant harm." He stood up. That's when fear truly entered the room. "You don't get to decide your role anymore," he said. "We do." I stood too, my legs trembling. "I won't apologize for loving my child." The next moments blurred together raised voices, overlapping words, emotions spilling over decades of silence. I remember stepping back. I remember reaching out not to him, but to her. "Please," I said, "say something." She looked at me, and then she looked away. That was the moment my heart broke. Not loudly, not dramatically, quietly, like something precious being dropped in deep water, never to be recovered. His anger escalated after that. Words became harsher. Accusations turned personal. He moved closer, invading my space, his presence overwhelming. I felt small, unwelcome, unsafe. I tried to leave. I told them I would go, but even leaving felt like an offense. "You always run," he snapped. "That's your problem." I reached for my coat, my hands shaking. I wanted out. I wanted air. I wanted this nightmare to end. That's when it happened. A sudden movement, a burst of chaos, fear flooding my body faster than thought. I don't remember every detail, only the feeling of being cornered, overwhelmed, and powerless. And through it all, my daughter stood frozen, watching, not stopping it, not stepping in, just watching. Time slowed. My ears rang. My heart felt like it was trying to escape my chest. I remember thinking, this is it. This is where I disappear. Eventually, voices from outside, neighbors, someone shouting, someone calling for help. The room filled with strangers, but the damage was already done. I left that house that night changed forever. Not because of what he did, but because of what she didn't do. I don't remember how I left the house. I remember standing near the doorway, my coat half on, my hands trembling so badly I couldn't button it properly. I remember the sound of my own breathing, fast, uneven, unfamiliar. And I remember looking back one last time, hoping against all logic that my daughter would finally move. She didn't. Her face wasn't angry. It wasn't cruel. It was empty. That emptiness hurt more than anything else that night. Outside, the air felt colder than it should have. I stood there for a moment, unsure which direction to walk. My legs felt weak, as if they no longer trusted me to carry myself forward. I had walked into that house as a mother trying to mend something broken. I walked out feeling like a stranger who had overstayed her welcome. As I walked down the street, the lights from the houses around me blurred together. Families were inside, laughing, eating, living their lives. Normal lives. Lives where mothers were still mothers, not problems to be managed or erased. I wondered when my life had stopped being normal. I made it home somehow. I don't remember unlocking the door or turning on the lights. I only remember sitting down on the edge of my bed, still wearing my coat, staring at nothing. My phone buzzed. For a brief second, hope flared in my chest. A ridiculous, fragile hope. It was a message from my daughter. "We need space. Please don't come over anymore." No apology, no explanation, no concern. Just a sentence that erased decades. I stared at the screen for a long time before placing the phone face down, as if it might burn me if I looked at it any longer. That was the moment something inside me shifted. Not anger, not hatred. Grief. The kind of grief you feel when someone dies but the body is still alive somewhere, breathing, choosing a life without you. I didn't sleep that night. Every time I closed my eyes, memories surfaced uninvited. Her first steps, her laughter as a child, the nights she climbed into my bed after nightmares, believing nothing bad could happen as long as I was there. And now, I was the nightmare she wanted distance from. The days that followed felt unreal. I moved through them like a ghost. I went to work. I smiled when people spoke to me. I answered questions. I did everything a normal person does. But inside, I was unraveling. I replayed the night over and over, wondering what I could have done differently. Should I have stayed silent? Should I have left earlier? Should I have never gone at all? The guilt consumed me. Then the shame arrived. I felt ashamed for believing love would protect me. Ashamed for thinking a mother's place was permanent. Ashamed for not seeing the signs sooner. Friends noticed something was wrong. They asked gentle questions. I gave polite answers. How do you explain that your own child has quietly decided you no longer fit into her life? One afternoon, I gathered the courage to send a message. Just one. I love you. I'm here when you're ready. It went unanswered. Days passed, then weeks. Silence became my new reality. I stopped checking my phone. I stopped hoping for reconciliation. Hope, I learned, can be cruel when it has nowhere to land. Instead, I started noticing things about myself I hadn't seen in years. I noticed how quiet my home was and how peaceful that quiet could be. I noticed how much energy I had spent shrinking myself to make others comfortable. I noticed how often I had put my own pain aside to keep the family intact. And I began to ask myself a dangerous question. What if walking away wasn't the end of my life, but the beginning of it? The thought scared me. For so long, my identity had been built around being her mother, her support system, her safety net. Without that role, who was I? At first, the answer was terrifying. But slowly, something unexpected happened. The pain didn't disappear, but it softened. The constant ache turned into something quieter, more manageable. I began sleeping again, eating again, breathing without feeling like my chest would collapse. I started saying no to guilt, to shame, to the idea that love must always be earned through suffering. And then, just when I thought the worst was behind me, something happened that forced me to face the truth completely. A knock at my door, unexpected, sharp, insistent. I stood frozen for a moment, my heart racing. No one ever came by unannounced anymore. I opened the door slowly. It wasn't my daughter. It was someone else. Someone who knew what had happened that night. Someone who had seen more than I realized. And as they spoke, I understood something chilling. That night hadn't just changed my relationship with my family. It had set something much bigger into motion. Something that would force the truth into the open. Whether my daughter was ready for it or not, the knock at my door didn't feel ordinary. It wasn't casual. It wasn't friendly. It was the kind of knock that carries weight, the kind that announces something you can't ignore. I stood there for several seconds, my hand hovering near the handle, my heart pounding like it already knew whatever waited on the other side would change me again. When I opened the door, I saw a face I recognized but never expected to see standing in my doorway. It was one of the neighbors from my daughter's street. She looked uncomfortable, nervous, like someone who had debated this moment for a long time before finally deciding to act. I hope I'm not intruding, she said softly, but I thought, you should know something. I stepped aside and let her in. She didn't sit down. She stood near the door, wringing her hands together, searching my face for permission to continue. I heard what happened that night, she said. Not everything, but enough. My chest tightened. She told me how the argument had spilled into raised voices, how the walls in that neighborhood were thinner than people like to believe, how more than one person had heard my son-in-law shouting, heard fear in my voice, heard the tension crack the air. And your daughter? She hesitated. She didn't say anything. The confirmation hurt, even though I already knew. But then she said something that changed everything. Someone else was called, she said. Not by you. My breath caught. She explained that another neighbor, someone closer to the house, had made a call that night out of concern. They had heard enough to believe things were not safe. Suddenly, pieces started falling into place. The strangers, the intervention, the way the night had ended so abruptly. It hadn't been random. Someone had seen the truth, and they had acted. After she left, I sat alone in my living room for a long time, staring at the wall. For the first time since that night, I felt something shift, not relief, not peace, but validation. I hadn't imagined it. I hadn't exaggerated it. I hadn't deserved it. For weeks, I had carried the weight of self-blame, wondering if I was the problem, wondering if I had pushed too hard, loved too loudly, existed too much. But now I understood something vital. What happened to me wasn't a misunderstanding. It was a boundary crossed. And when boundaries are crossed, silence is no longer neutrality, it's a choice. Days later, I received another message. This one wasn't from my daughter. It was from someone else in the family. Concerned, careful, curious. Word had begun to spread, not the dramatic version, not gossip, but fragments of truth leaking through the cracks. People had started asking questions, quiet ones, the kind that don't accuse but don't ignore either. For the first time, I didn't rush to defend anyone. I didn't soften the story. I didn't protect reputations. I didn't minimize my pain. I told the truth, not emotionally, not dramatically, simply. And the truth has a way of standing on its own. Something strange happened after that. The fear that had lived in my chest for weeks began to loosen its grip. I realized I wasn't powerless anymore. I didn't need permission to exist, to speak, or to be safe. I started reclaiming pieces of myself I had abandoned long ago. I never thought the people I sacrificed everything for would become the ones I needed protection from. That night, I didn't walk into my daughter's house as a guest. I walked in as a mother who still believed she mattered. But within minutes, the room changed, voices hardened, silence grew heavy. My son-in-law stepped forward. I looked at my daughter, waiting for her to stop him. She didn't. And in that moment, something inside me broke. Because I realized this story wasn't about an argument anymore. It was about the night I lost my family, and what happened after shocked everyone. I reconnected with friends I had drifted away from while centering my entire life around my daughter. I filled my days with routines that belonged to me: walks in the morning, quiet evenings with books, laughter that didn't require approval. I stopped waiting for apologies that might never come. And then, my daughter reached out. The message was short, hesitant. "Can we talk?" I stared at it for a long time. Old instincts surged forward, the need to rush, to fix, to comfort. But I paused. For the first time in my life, I allowed myself to choose me first. I replied hours later, "We can talk, when you're ready to listen." When we finally met, it wasn't in her house. It wasn't on her terms. It was neutral ground, safe ground. She looked different, tired, smaller somehow. She spoke first. She said she hadn't known how bad things had gotten, that she had been overwhelmed, that she felt trapped between loyalty and fear. I listened, but listening didn't mean excusing. When it was my turn, I spoke calmly. I told her how that night had changed me, how her silence had echoed louder than any words, how walking away had been the hardest thing I had ever done and also the most necessary. She cried, but this time, I didn't move to wipe her tears. Some lessons must be felt fully to be understood. "I needed you," I said quietly, "and you weren't there." The room went still. That truth settled between us, heavy and unavoidable. I didn't know then what would happen next, whether we would rebuild or drift further apart. But I knew one thing with absolute certainty. I would never again beg for a place in someone's life, not even my own child's. Because respect is not something you earn through sacrifice. It's something you require. And in finally requiring it, I discovered something powerful. I hadn't lost everything that night. I had found myself. I used to think endings were loud. Arguments, apologies, doors slamming shut or opening wide again. But the real ending of my story came quietly on an ordinary morning, when I realized I no longer woke up with fear in my chest. No panic, no dread, no waiting for a message that might never come. Just peace. That was when I understood something I had never allowed myself to believe before. I had survived. Weeks passed after that conversation with my daughter. We didn't speak often. When we did, it was careful, measured, honest in a way it had never been before. There were no demands, no guilt, no expectations that I would return to being who I used to be. And for the first time, that felt right. Then came the twist I never saw coming. One afternoon, I received a call from a number I didn't recognize. I almost didn't answer it, but something told me to pick up. It was her. Not my daughter, him, my son-in-law. His voice sounded different, not confident, not controlled, stripped of the authority he once carried so comfortably. He didn't apologize, not directly. Instead, he spoke carefully, choosing his words like someone walking across thin ice. He said things had changed, that consequences had followed that night, that people had started asking questions, that the image he worked so hard to protect had cracks now. And then he said something I never expected to hear. "I underestimated you." Those words meant nothing to me. What mattered was what came next. He said my daughter had begun making decisions on her own, speaking up, pushing back, creating distance. He said she was no longer the same. That's when I realized the truth. Walking away hadn't destroyed my family. It had exposed it. By refusing to accept disrespect, I had done what years of sacrifice never could. I had shown my daughter what self-worth looks like in action. I didn't feel victorious. I felt complete, not because things had worked out perfectly, but because I no longer needed them to. Months later, my daughter visited me. She came alone. No tension, no audience, no control. She hugged me tightly, the way she used to when she was a child. And for the first time in years, I felt her fully present. I didn't understand then, she said, but I do now. I didn't rush to respond. Healing doesn't happen in one moment. Trust doesn't rebuild in one sentence. But this time, it was real, and that was enough. Today, my life looks different than the one I imagined when I was younger. It's quieter, smaller, but stronger. I've learned that love does not mean endurance without limits. That being a mother does not mean erasing yourself. That walking away is not failure when staying costs you your dignity. Most importantly, I learned this: you can lose everything and still win. Because when you choose yourself, you teach others how to treat you or how to live without you. If this story resonated with you, if you've ever felt invisible in your own family, if you've ever had to walk away to survive, you are not alone. And if you want to hear more real, emotional family stories like this one, subscribe to this channel. Because sometimes, the stories that hurt the most are the ones that help us heal.